There is something quietly astonishing about being alive. Beneath the surface of skin, beneath the pulse we feel but rarely notice, an entire world is in motion. Every second, a symphony of invisible processes unfolds, billions of cells working together without our conscious direction. We think, we breathe, we move, and we feel, all while the machinery of life hums along, perfect in its timing and endlessly self-correcting. To understand a human body is to explore not a static diagram of parts, but a living story that never stops writing itself. Everything begins at the smallest scale, so small that it's impossible to see without magnification. The human body is built from trillions of cells, each one a world of its own. Inside these microscopic spheres, chemistry and purpose intertwine. The outer membrane, flexible yet firm, guards the interior with a kind of selective wisdom. Nutrients in, waste out, signals across. Within, tiny structures perform precise tasks. The nucleus carrying the genetic blueprint, mitochondria spinning molecules into energy, ribosomes assembling the proteins that will form tissues, enzymes, and structures. Even here, there's hierarchy and coordination. No cell operates in isolation. Each obeys the larger rhythm of the organism, contributing to a balance we call homeostasis. From this invisible foundation rises something more complex: tissues. When similar cells join forces to perform a shared task, a new level of organization emerges. Muscle tissue contract to create motion. Nervous tissue conducts electrical whispers across vast distances. Epithelial tissue lines and protects, while connective tissue binds, cushions, and supports. Tissues are like languages, for dialects from which the entire body is composed. They interlace, weave, and layer to form the organs we depend upon but seldom ponder. Imagine, for a moment, the heart. To us, it's a symbol of life itself, but anatomically, it's a marvel of coordination. Cardiac muscle cells beat in unison, not because we command them, but because of an internal rhythm they inherit from specialized pacemaker cells. Electrical impulses travel in perfect sequence, opening and closing valves, pushing blood with measured force to the arteries, and drawing it back to the veins. It's not a pump we built. It's one that built us. Its sound, the quiet thump beneath our ribs, is a constant reminder that we are creatures of movement and flow. But the body's design doesn't stop at mechanical precision. It is dynamic and self-aware at every level. Consider how temperature, blood pressure, and chemical composition remain remarkably stable despite the chaos of daily life. This is the work of homeostasis, the delicate dance of sensors, effectors, and feedback loops that keeps us alive. When our internal temperature rises, sweat glands activate. When sugar drops, hormones from the pancreas restore balance. Every organ contributes. Every system listens. It is as if the body knows itself intimately, maintaining its own harmony through an endless conversation of signals. One of the most extraordinary aspects of this conversation lies in the nervous system. It is both messenger and master, a web of cells that sense, interpret, and command. Within a fraction of a second, it can translate light into sight, vibration into sound, and pressure into touch. Nerve cells, or neurons, communicate by exchanging electrical charges and chemical messengers across microscopic gaps called synapses. This intricate network allows the body to anticipate and react, to experience and remember. When a child reaches out to touch the flame of a candle, pain receptors in the skin send an urgent message through nerves to the spinal cord, which replies instantly by pulling the hand away. Even before the brain fully understands what happened, reflex and awareness, biology and experience, all stitched together by this astonishing circuitry. And yet, even the nervous system cannot act alone. It has a silent partner, one that works in molecules instead of impulses, the endocrine system. Through hormones, it whispers instructions that travel through blood rather than nerve fibers. The thyroid sets the tempo of metabolism. The adrenal glands prepare the body for action. The pancreas modulates energy supply. And the reproductive organs coordinate growth and renewal. These chemical messages move slowly compared to neural signals, but their influence lingers, shaping mood, growth, and even the rhythm of sleep. The two systems, nervous and endocrine, are like twin conductors guiding the same orchestra, one precise and immediate, the other broad and enduring. As the systems multiply and intertwine, the body reveals its architecture, a collection of organs and pathways, each designed for both independence and unity. The respiratory system draws in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide, feeding the metabolism that keeps every cell alive. The digestive tract breaks down food into molecular pieces that can be absorbed and transported. The kidneys filter waste, maintaining the purity of the internal environment. The immune system patrols tirelessly, distinguishing between self and other, learning from every encounter. And above it all, the brain, 3 pounds of tissue, sits quietly in a protective vault, orchestrating the entire performance. But the brain is not an overlord. It's a collaborator. Every thought, every dream, every decision is grounded in the physical body. The mind cannot exist without the heart's oxygen, the liver's detoxification, the gut's microbial symphony. We like to think of consciousness as separate, but in truth, it's embodied. The brain's perceptions are constantly shaped by the pulse of the body. Hunger, warmth, pain, fatigue. Our emotions are chemical signatures. Our choices, electrical patterns. Our personality is sculpted by biology as much as experience. If one steps back, the beauty of this design lies not only in its complexity, but in its unity. Every system, every cell, every molecule is engaged in the same mission, preserving the fragile equilibrium that defines life. Even when the body fails, when disease disrupts or age diminishes, this drive for balance persists until the very end. It is not mechanical persistence, but an organic one, guided by feedback, adaptation, and resilience. In this way, the human body is not just an object to study. It is a reflection of nature's genius for cooperation. Each of us carries within us the sum of millions of years of trial and refinement, evolution's patient craftsmanship etched into flesh and bone. To understand anatomy, then, is to glimpse at history, to see how survival shaped structure, how need molded function, and how, through endless variation, the blueprint of the human form emerged. And yet, for all our knowledge, much remains mysterious. We can map every nerve, trace every artery, catalog every cell, and still find ourselves astonished by the whole. Because the body isn't just parts assembled. It's a process, one that renews itself continuously. Cells die and are replaced, bones remodel, tissues heal, and even the brain rewires in response to experience. We are at every moment a work in progress, a living balance between decay and renewal. So when we study the human body, we are really studying ourselves. Not the surface we see in a mirror, but the vast hidden network beneath it, the one that sustains our thoughts, dreams, and breath. To understand it slowly is to begin to feel a kind of reverence for the miracle of simply existing. Beneath the skin, beneath the heartbeat, lies a world so complex and so delicately ordered that the more we learn, the more it humbles us. The story of the human body is not one of perfection, but of persistence, a quiet, unending conversation between structure and life. Deep within the intricate web of the human body lies an unbroken story of connection. Every beat, every breath, every motion is part of a dialogue that extends from the smallest cell to the vast network of organs that keep us alive. To see this clearly, we must travel deeper, past the surface rhythm of life and into the silent coordination that defines existence. Here, anatomy becomes more than structure. It becomes choreography. And the stage upon which this dance unfolds is one of extraordinary precision. Consider, for instance, the skeletal system, the framework that gives our bodies shape and resilience. It is easy to think of bones as rigid, lifeless supports, but they are anything but static. Bone is living tissue, constantly breaking down and rebuilding. Within its lattice of calcium and collagen, tiny cells called osteocytes monitor stress and strain, while osteoclasts and osteoblasts engage in a perpetual remodeling act, eroding and rebuilding in perfect equilibrium. This process ensures that bones adapt to the demands placed upon them. A dancer's leg grows denser from repeated leaps. A swimmer's shoulders broaden with the rhythm of movement. The skeleton listens, adjusts, and evolves with every motion we make. Joints connect these bones, turning stability into motion. Each joint, hinge, ball and socket, pivot, has its own design and limits. Cartilage cushions impact. Ligaments hold structure. Synovial fluid reduces friction to near zero. The engineering is exquisite, flexible enough for grace, strong enough for endurance. Every step you take, every gesture of your hand, is a product of biomechanics refined by millions of years of adaptation. Without this precise architecture, movement would tear the body apart. With it, motion becomes effortless. Yet movement is not born from bones alone. The skeletal system may give shape, but it is the muscular system that gives life to that shape. More than 600 muscles pull on bones in an elaborate symphony of contraction and release. Each fiber within a muscle is like a microscopic engine, powered by chemical reactions that convert nutrients into energy. When a muscle contracts, it shortens, pulling its attachment points closer together. That simple action, multiplied by hundreds of muscles and controlled by neural commands, becomes walking, running, reaching, speaking. Every motion that expresses who we are. Muscles do not work in isolation. They depend on constant communication. When you decide to move, a signal originates in your brain, travels down the spinal cord, and reaches the motor neurons connected to muscle fibers. Within milliseconds, the command becomes motion. Calcium floods the fibers. Proteins slide past each other, and the muscle shortens with remarkable precision. Then, just as quickly, the signal ceases, the calcium is withdrawn, and the fibers relax. It is this rapid conversation between brain and body that gives rise to the illusion of smooth, continuous motion. But motion alone is not life. Beneath every contraction and every beat of the heart lies energy. Chemical energy transformed and transported with astonishing efficiency. This is a domain of the circulatory system, the body's delivery network. The heart, that tireless muscle, contracts about 100,000 times each day, pumping blood through nearly 60,000 miles of vessels. Each beat sends oxygen-rich blood coursing through arteries, branching into arterioles, and finally reaching the capillaries, where the true exchange occurs. Here, oxygen and nutrients cross into cells, while carbon dioxide and waste products are carried away. Then the blood returns through the veins to the heart once more. It is a cycle of giving and returning, a continuous river that sustains every tissue. The blood itself is more than transport fluid. It is a living tissue in motion. Red blood cells, shaped like tiny discs, carry oxygen-bound hemoglobin, a molecule that changes color as it trades gases, turning bright crimson in the lungs and darker in the tissues. White blood cells patrol for invaders, detecting and destroying bacteria, viruses, and damaged cells. Platelets stand ready to seal any breach in the system, clotting swiftly to preserve life. Every drop of blood carries within it a story of protection, adaptation, and endurance. For this system to function, it requires a constant supply of oxygen, and that is the work of the respiratory system. Each breath draws the outside world inward. Air passes to the nose or mouth, down the trachea, and into branching bronchi that end in millions of alveoli. These microscopic sacs are where air meets blood, where the boundaries between body and environment blur. Oxygen diffuses into red blood cells, while carbon dioxide diffuses out, ready to be exhaled. Every breath is an exchange, a quiet transaction between the self and the world. The act of breathing itself is controlled by a subtle balance of muscle and reflex. The diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle beneath the lungs, contracts downward, creating negative pressure that pulls air in. When it relaxes, air flows out. Though we can control our breath consciously, most of the time it is automatic, regulated by sensors that detect changes in carbon dioxide and oxygen levels. It is a rhythm we seldom notice, but without it, life ceases within minutes. To fuel all this motion and exchange, the body relies on a system built for transformation, the digestive system. It begins with appetite, that primal signal that reminds us of our dependence on the world. Food enters through the mouth, where mechanical and chemical processes begin. Teeth grind, saliva softens, enzymes start to break down starches. The journey continues through the esophagus to the stomach, where acids and enzymes dissolve food into a semi-liquid form. From there, the small intestine takes over, a long, winding passage lined with villi that absorb nutrients into the bloodstream. Every molecule of glucose, amino acid, and fatty acid extracted here becomes potential energy or structure somewhere else. The large intestine completes the cycle, reclaiming water and compacting waste for elimination. This process is astonishingly efficient. Within hours, the meal that once sat on a plate becomes part of your muscles, your thoughts, your breath. Digestion is transformation, the physical merging of life with its environment. Through it, the body renews itself constantly. But efficiency alone is not enough. The body must also maintain purity, a separation between what nourishes and what poisons. This is the work of the urinary system, which filters blood to remove excess water, salts, and waste products. The kidneys, small but powerful, process about 180 liters of fluid a day, reclaiming nearly all of it and discarding only what must go. Within their microscopic nephrons, filtration, reabsorption, and secretion occur with exquisite control. This balance allows the body to maintain a stable internal environment despite the flux of diet, activity, and temperature. Through all these systems, the skeletal, muscular, circulatory, respiratory, digestive, and urinary, the theme is unity. Each one depends on the others. None can exist alone. The muscles require oxygen from the lungs, nutrients from the gut, and structural support from bones. The bones depend on circulation to bring minerals and remove waste. The brain coordinates all of it, but the organs communicate independently as well, forming loops of feedback that operate faster than conscious thought. When seen as a whole, the human body is not a machine of separate parts, but an ecosystem of collaboration. Every system speaks its own language, yet understands the others perfectly. The signals that travel through nerves, the hormones that drift through blood, the mechanical pressures sensed by tissues, all of them are messages in the same conversation. Together, they sustain a balance that defines life. It is easy to forget this when we see anatomy rendered as charts and diagrams, when we memorize the names of bones and muscles as though they were separate entities. But in truth, there is no isolation here. Every part of you, every cell, tissue, and organ participates in the same act to maintain order amid change. It is an act so constant, so seamless, that we hardly notice it. And yet, in the quiet workings of the body, there lies a profound intelligence, one that doesn't think or speak, but simply knows how to keep you alive. If the body systems are the instruments of life, then the nervous system is its conductor, an invisible network that gives direction to every note. It threads through every tissue, every muscle, every organ, transmitting not just commands, but awareness. Within this network lies the story of how we experience the world, how thought becomes action, and how sensation transforms into meaning. It is a system that turns a collection of cells into a self. At its center is the brain, an organ so complex that it defies complete understanding even today. Containing nearly 86 billion neurons, it is both the master controller and a world of miniature interactions. Each neuron is a messenger, capable of transmitting electrical signals at astonishing speed. These signals flow through delicate branches, leaping across synapses, tiny gaps bridged by chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Every movement, every emotion, every dream begins with this exchange. The brain is not a single organ working in isolation. It is a federation of regions, each with distinct responsibilities, all working in seamless harmony. The outer layer, the cerebral cortex, is the seat of higher thought. It is where logic, imagination, and self-awareness take form. The frontal lobes orchestrate decisions and personality. The temporal lobes store memories and interpret sound. The parietal lobe construct our sense of space and touch, and the occipital lobes paint a vivid canvas of vision. Below this gray landscape lies the limbic system, the emotional core that links experience to feeling. Here, the amygdala recognizes fear, the hippocampus stores memory, and the hypothalamus regulates hunger, thirst, and desire. Beneath them all, the brainstem maintains the automatic rhythms of life, heartbeat, breathing, digestion, functions so essential that they operate without our conscious input. To communicate with the rest of the body, the brain relies on the spinal cord, a column of neural fibers protected by bone. It serves as both highway and command center, carrying messages back and forth. Some responses, like reflexes, never even reach the brain. When your hand touches something sharp, the signal travels to the spinal cord and immediately returns as a command to pull away. The entire process happens in less time than it takes to blink. These reflex loops reveal a profound truth about the body's intelligence. Not all thinking happens in the head. From the spinal cord, Nerves branch outward like the roots of a great tree. The peripheral nervous system extends into every corner of the body, ensuring that no cell is out of reach. Some of these nerves carry sensory information inward, pain, pressure, temperature, while others carry motor commands outward, directing muscles and glands. Still others belong to the autonomic system, which governs the quiet, involuntary processes of life. Heartbeat, digestion, glandular secretion. Even at rest, the system hums with activity, balancing between two opposing forces, the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. The sympathetic system prepares the body for action. When danger looms or excitement stirs, it quickens the heart, dilates the pupils, and floods the bloodstream with adrenaline. It is the ancient spark of survival that readies us to fight or flee. The parasympathetic system, by contrast, restores calm. It slows the pulse, deepens breathing, and stimulates digestion. Together, these two halves of the autonomic system maintain the body's inner equilibrium, shifting seamlessly from alertness to rest as circumstances demand. Yet even this system does not operate alone. Running parallel to it, like a whispering twin, is the endocrine system, where nerves speak in rapid electrical signals. The endocrine system communicates through chemicals. Hormones released into the bloodstream that travel to distant organs and alter their behavior. Though slower, this method of communication carries long-lasting influence, shaping metabolism, growth, reproduction, and emotion. Consider the thyroid gland, a butterfly-shaped organ in the neck that governs the body's energy use. Through its hormones, it controls how quickly cells burn fuel and how warm the body feels. Or the adrenal glands, perched atop the kidneys, releasing cortisol and adrenaline in moments of stress. Their secretions sharpen awareness, heighten strength, and mobilize energy reserves. In the brain, the hypothalamus and pituitary act as command centers for the entire system, linking thought and emotion directly to the chemistry of the body. This partnership between nervous and endocrine systems ensures that we are not machines reacting to the world, but organisms capable of nuanced adaptation, able to feel, remember, and change. The harmony between these systems gives rise to something extraordinary. Perception. Through our senses, the nervous system gathers information about the environment, allowing the brain to construct an internal model of reality. The eyes translate light into electrical signals that the brain interprets as color, shape, and movement. The ears capture vibrations in air and turn them into sound. Taste and smell detect the molecular world, linking chemistry to memory and emotion. Touch, spread across the entire body, provides constant feedback about pressure, temperature, and pain. Together, these senses weave a seamless tapestry of experience. But perception is not passive. The brain does not merely record the world. It interprets it. The image that forms on a retina is upside down, yet we perceive it as upright. The mind fills in gaps, filters irrelevant details, and highlights what matters most. What we experience as reality is, in truth, a carefully constructed simulation, one that balances accuracy with efficiency. The brain shows us not everything, but enough. It creates a world that we can act within, one that feels continuous and solid, even though it is built from fleeting electrical storms within the skull. This ability to perceive and act, to imagine and decide, gives rise to consciousness, the most mysterious product of the human body. Somewhere in the endless chatter of neurons, awareness emerges. We are able not only to sense the world, but to reflect upon it. We can imagine futures that do not yet exist, remember pasts that no longer do, and feel emotions that belong to neither. Consciousness binds body and mind together, creating the illusion of a single, continuous self. It is at once fragile and resilient, capable of profound clarity and deep confusion, yet always rooted in the same biological foundation. When consciousness falters, through injury, disease, or exhaustion, it reveals how closely it depends on the physical world. A single imbalance in brain chemistry can shift perception entirely. The hormone surges of adolescence reshape mood and motivation. The slowing of neurotransmitters with age can alter memory and focus. Even our sense of self is biochemical, sustained by the delicate interplay of molecules and electrical impulses. The brain, in its complexity, is not a detached observer, but a participant in the body's great conversation. It listens to hormones, responds to heartbeats, and adjusts to the gut's chemical signals. Scientists now understand that the nervous system extends beyond the skull and spine, reaching into every organ and even into the microbes that share our bodies. The gut, often called the second brain, contains millions of neurons and produces many of the same neurotransmitters found in the brain itself. This connection explains why emotion and digestion are so intertwined, why stress knots the stomach, and why comfort food can soothe the mind. What emerges from this interconnectedness is a remarkable truth. Thought is not confined to the head. The entire body thinks, in its own way. Every system, from the immune to the endocrine, contributes to perception and emotion. We are not minds living in bodies. We are bodies that think. The more we uncover about this inner dialogue, the more astonishing it becomes. Neural activity generates consciousness, hormones shape emotion, and sensory experience molds the brain itself. With every new experience, neurons forge connections and strengthen pathways. Learning literally reshapes the architecture of the brain, proof that the body is not fixed but fluid, constantly adapting, refining, and remembering. And within this adaptation lies the essence of life itself, the capacity for change. The nervous and endocrine systems, together, allow us to navigate a world that is never still. They give us the power to react, to anticipate, to imagine. They remind us that life is not the maintenance of stasis, but the art of continual adjustment. Through them, the body doesn't just exist, it experiences. It feels hunger and fulfillment, fear and courage, pain and relief. It learns, forgets, dreams and desires. Every spark of emotion, every flash of insight, every moment of wonder arises from the same foundation of biology and electricity. To understand this is to realize that the story of anatomy is not the story of flesh and bone, but of awareness itself. There's a moment, quiet but powerful, when you begin to sense that the human body is not merely a structure. It's a story written in cells, whispered in impulses, and told through the unending rhythm of life. Every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of thought adds another line to this narrative, one that has been unfolding since long before birth and will continue until the very last exhalation. It is a story of balance and struggle, adaptation and memory, a story of the self embodied. At the foundation of this story lies the machinery of life. The cells, though invisible to the naked eye, they are the architects of everything we are. Each cell is a world unto itself, complete, active, and self-sustaining. Inside, a delicate choreography unfolds. The nucleus carries genetic instructions written in the elegant language of DNA, while the cytoplasm hums with activity. As proteins are built, energy is released, and waste is managed. It's a system so intricate that even the smallest mistake can ripple outward, changing the fate of an entire organism. Yet, astonishingly, the vast majority of the time, it works perfectly. Trillions of cells, each following its own tiny script, somehow manage to coordinate into a single living being. When cells gather and specialize, tissues are born. Muscle tissue contracts with silent precision, pulling bones and moving limbs. Nervous tissue carries signals at lightning speed, connecting thought to motion. Epithelial tissue forms protective layers that guard the body's boundaries, while connective tissue holds everything in place, anchoring, cushioning, and shaping. These tissues merge into organs, each with its own task and rhythm, and the organs themselves unite into systems, the respiratory, circulatory, digestive, and so on. Together, they compose a grand symphony of existence. But this harmony is not static. It depends on constant regulation, a principle known as homeostasis. The body is always listening to itself, measuring temperature, pH, sugar levels, hydration, oxygen, and countless other variables. When any of these drift out of range, the body reacts. The heart speeds up, the lungs expand, the kidneys filter, the sweat glands open. It's a dynamic balance, a dance between order and chaos. Without it, even the smallest shift could spell disaster. This capacity for self-correction is what separates the living from the inert. The circulatory system is perhaps the clearest expression of this interconnectedness. The heart, a tireless pump of muscular precision, drives blood through an astonishing network of vessels, arteries that carry oxygen-rich blood outward, veins that return it, and capillaries that link the two in an invisible latticework of exchange. Each drop of blood carries both sustenance and signal, oxygen, nutrients, hormones, immune cells, and waste. In a single minute, it completes a journey that touches nearly every cell in the body, a perpetual motion that defines what it means to be alive. And then there is the blood itself, a river of life. Within it float red blood cells, each packed with hemoglobin molecules that bind oxygen with almost poetic devotion, releasing it only where it's needed most. White blood cells patrol this river, ever vigilant, defending the body from invaders and repairing damage. Platelets stand ready to seal wounds, transforming liquid flow into solid protection in moments. Together, they form an ecosystem as intricate as any rainforest, alive, adaptive, and resilient. Yet this river would mean little without the lungs. These delicate organs open like flowers with every breath, drawing air that feeds the bloodstream. Oxygen crosses the fragile walls of the alveoli, tiny sacs surrounded by capillaries, and carbon dioxide flows out, completing an exchange so efficient it happens millions of times a day without conscious thought. The act of breathing itself is an elegant paradox. It is both automatic and voluntary, a bridge between body and mind. We can control for a moment, slow it, deepen it, stop it, but eventually the body reclaims it, reminding us that even our will is built upon biology. Below, the digestive system performs its own slow miracle. Beginning with a single bite, food is transformed into fuel that powers every heartbeat and thought. The process is long, winding through stomach, intestine, and gland, but the outcome is simple: energy. Along the way, the liver filters toxins, the pancreas secretes enzymes, and the intestines absorb nutrients into the bloodstream. Even the bacteria living in the gut, trillions of them, play their part aiding digestion, training the immune system, and producing vital compounds. We are, in many ways, a collaboration between human and microbe. The skeletal system, silent and unyielding, gives this living structure its shape. More than a scaffold, the bones are active organs, storing minerals, producing blood cells, and responding to stress. They adapt to movement, strengthening where pressure is greatest, thinning where it's not. Around them, muscles weave, contract, and pull in perfect coordination. Movement itself becomes a dialogue between bone, muscle, and nerve, a mechanical ballet executed with chemical precision. Yet, despite this complexity, the body is remarkably unified. A cut finger can quicken the heart. A racing heart can change how we think. A thought can alter breathing. Every function reflects and influences the others. The mind and body are not separate entities, but expressions of the same reality. Two perspectives, a single continuous system. When the body falters, the mind feels it. When the mind suffers, the body responds. This deep reciprocity defines the human experience. But even in its perfection, the body carries its own fragility. Every heartbeat is a victory over entropy. Every breath a momentary reversal of decay. Cells age, DNA frays, and systems eventually lose their rhythm. And yet, the body doesn't go quietly. It adapts, compensates, and finds balance again and again. This persistence, this relentless drive to continue, is perhaps its most awe-inspiring feature. Life resists stillness. Even in decline, it strives toward harmony. To study the human body is to encounter a paradox. The closer we look, the more mechanical it seems, and yet the more we realize it is anything but. The heart's beat, the neuron spark, the lungs' breath. Each is physical, measurable, and predictable, but together they give rise to emotion, thought, and meaning. Out of blood and bone, chemistry and impulse, comes laughter, sorrow, love, and curiosity. From raw matter arises something that looks back at itself and asks why. Perhaps that's a quiet wonder of anatomy. Not that we can explain the body, but that the body makes explaining possible at all. The same neurons that allow a scientist to study the brain are the ones doing the studying. The same muscles that let a hand turn the pages of a textbook are built from the same principles being read about. We are both the observer and the observed, the explorer and the map. When you truly grasp that, it's impossible not to feel a sense of reverence. Every moment of awareness, every breath and blink, is part of an unbroken conversation between the universe and itself. The atoms that make up the body once belonged to stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your cells, all forged in stellar furnaces billions of years ago. To understand a human body is to understand that we are not separate from the cosmos, but expressions of it. We are stardust that learned to perceive itself. And so, the story of the human body ends where it began, not in complexity of anatomy, but in the quiet awe of existence. Beneath all the mechanisms and systems lies something simple and profound: the drive to live, to adapt, to feel, to wonder. The body is not a machine. It is a living poem, written in flesh and rhythm, ever rewriting itself with every heartbeat. To fathom it fully is to stand in awe of life itself, a mystery not to be solved, but to be endlessly, beautifully explored.